Okay, welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Dr. Sade Anderson. I'm the Program Director for Local Concepts that provides network management support for the Chesapeake Food Shed Network. I'm joined today by Local Concepts owner and network manager, Christy Gabbard, Sonia Kiner, Communications Director, Valley Edenbow, Network Assistant, and Katie Terrazzo, also a Network Assistant. I'm also joined by our panelists or our facilitators today from UMN, who will introduce a little bit later. We're also joined by some portion of over 60 registrants from across the US and globe. We thank you for being here today. We know there's tremendous experience and expertise within you all, within all the participants who are here today, and we're so pleased that you want to share with us in this learning journey. So first, I'm going to give a quick overview. First we're going to do a quick Zoom tutorial just for folks in case you don't have as much experience with Zoom. We just want to ask everyone to put their audio on mute if you haven't already. Once you get into the breakout rooms, you'll be able to share. We also encourage you to introduce yourself in the chat box and use the chat box feature, both of which are at the bottom of your Zoom screen. We also want to let you know that when we get to the point of going into breakout rooms, you will be invited to do so, and you just have to accept the invitation. You'll be in the breakout room for an hour and 20 minutes, and then you'll have a 60-second countdown to come back into the main room. So now I'm going to share a bit about today's program. We're going to do an overview of Local Concepts, the Chesapeake Food Shed Network. We're also going to talk about the participatory grant-making journey thus far. UMN, the University of Minnesota Extension, will give their introductions. We will go over how the simulation is going to take place, do some shared agreements, as well as move into some breakout rooms to do the shared gifting, and then we'll come back and reconvene in a larger group and close out. So first I want to share a bit about Local Concepts. Local Concepts is a social enterprise consulting firm working with businesses, organizations, and others to accelerate value-driven transformation. We work with clients to harness the collective power found in social networks to drive positive change. Local Concepts has been providing network management support to the Chesapeake Food Shed Network since 2014. The Chesapeake Food Shed Network, also known as CFN, is a growing network of over 2,000 individuals and organizations across the Chesapeake Food Shed. Our mission is to catalyze the connections and collaborations necessary across the region to work towards a food system that supports healthy communities, land, and waterways. We believe that by working together, we're better positioned to advance the pace of change. We are led by a steering team of 20 people that are committed to advancing equity in the food system and working to operationalize values related to equity and justice. To learn more and to join the network, please visit our website, chesapeakefoodshed.net. All are welcome. Next, I'd like to share about the participatory grant-making journey. The Chesapeake Food Shed Network invites you to continue with us on this participatory grant-making journey. The journey provides an opportunity to engage in transformational learning and build a new culture around funding in the food system. Participatory grant-making and shared gifting circles are mechanisms to shift power, include community in decision-making, and increase collaboration, solidarity, and accountability. The CFN is hosting a 3-part participatory grant-making series, which culminates in a true shared gifting event. The parts of the journey are intended to build on one another, but can stand alone. Funders, community members, network leadership, and potential grant applicants are all invited to participate. Everyone is welcome. Today's shared gifting simulation is part 2 of the CFN's participatory grant-making journey. At the end of the video call, we will share with you how you can participate in our culminating True Shared Gifting event, part 3 of this journey. The main portion of the simulation will be about an hour and 20 minutes with questions within the breakout rooms and after we reconvene as a larger group. Please utilize the chat box within the breakout rooms, and co-facilitators will be managing that chat box as well as posting relevant links for you. Please feel free to introduce yourself there again and post questions. If you feel so compelled, you also can live tweet using the Twitter handles found below. We are excited to hear from our facilitators today from the University of Minnesota Extension. They will be introducing themselves and sharing and highlighting their experience with shared gifting. Take it away, Jamie.
Hi everyone, my name is Jamie Bain. I work with the University of Minnesota Extension, and I office out of North Minneapolis, and I work sort of regionally and statewide, and I get to work with a number of great human beings. And I have 3 other of those humans with me today. This is a huge event for us because shared gifting is what I like to say, it's like talking about ballet. You can't talk about it, you have to experience it to really understand it. And in order to experience it, it takes a lot of hands on deck. So we have about 11 people between Extension and CFN here to help make this a reality. So I just want to, we can stay muted, but give a huge round of applause for all of the behind the scenes work that it's taken to pull this behemoth off. So thank you all so much for being here, for spending your time with us. We really believe in this experience as a way to advance equity and to heal the world through both participatory means, but also through sort of changing the experience around money. And so what we're going to do is just start with a quick introduction of who all the facilitators are. So again, Jamie Bain, I'm going to hand it off to Steph Heim, and we're also going to share a little bit about why shared gifting is important to us.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Steph Heim, coming to you from Rochester, Minnesota, the southeast corner of the state. And one of the things about shared gifting for me is it's powerful in many ways. I've actually teared up, which if you know me is not actually that big of a deal because I'm emotional, but I am a feeler, but it's amazing to see equity in action. And it's pretty powerful. So I'm really happy you're on this journey with us, and I'm going to hand it off to Shirley.
Good morning, everyone. Shirley Nordrum. I'm an educator that serves the Leech Lake, Red Lake, and White Earth Nations in northern Minnesota. I'm housed at on the beautiful Leech Lake Indian Reservation, and it's really good to see you all today. And thank you so much for joining me. I was invited to participate in the shared gifting by Noelle and Jamie and Steph a couple of years ago now. And I really, truly loved the experience because to me, it's the closest that you can get to what an Anishinaabe worldview would be, because we don't come from a world of scarcity. We come from a world of abundance, and we believe that there is enough for everyone to do what they need to do. And I think this experience is the closest you can get to that in the world that we live in today. So I hope you enjoy it and get as much out of it as I do, because I feel like it's almost sharing a piece of what we would do as Indigenous people. So miigwech.
Noelle, why don't you go next?
Good morning, everybody. I think it's morning for most folks on the call, at least. I'm Noelle Hardin, and I'm also with the University of Minnesota Extension. I am based in Moorhead, which is like the little stepsister of Fargo, North Dakota. We're right across the river. And I am just so delighted to be here. We in Minnesota have learned a lot from the Chesapeake Food Shed Network over the years. And I want to give a shout out to the folks from RSF Social Finance who are on the call. Great to see you guys or know that you're here anyway, Kelly and Ellie. We've also learned so much from them over the years related to participatory grant making. Kelly, in fact, has been to Minnesota to help us facilitate a shared gifting circle that we did with some of our colleagues and that Shirley participated in. And one of the most powerful experiences I've had with shared gifting happened during that circle. And I remember at the end, one of the participants, Alan, who owns a rural grocery store, he reflected just about how humbled he was by not only getting to receive funds from colleagues and other people passionate about food systems around the state, but how powerful it was for him to get to gift funds to other people. And just that shift, I think, is so empowering for people. And I'm just really excited to keep kind of preaching the gospel of participatory grant making. And I will tap my lovely colleague, Laura Bowen, to introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. Can you all hear me? Okay, there was a short in my microphone, so if I ever just suddenly drop out, somebody give me like the hi sign. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm so happy to be here. The first experience I had with shared gifting was actually with my colleagues. We had some internal funds that we needed to figure out what to do with. And thankfully, Noelle, Jamie, and Steph had this expertise and suggested shared gifting circle. And I didn't really know what to expect. I think I was worried it would maybe be a little weirdly competitive, but what actually happened and what I hope you'll see today when we do the simulation is it's a wonderful chance to share about your work, to have that connection with your colleagues. I work with people across the state and they don't always get to know a lot about what I do every day. And then for them to give me some of their funds to support my project was just incredibly meaningful and really felt like not only did I have that financial support from them, but I had that just peer support from them, and that they believed in my work and they trusted me, and that they were here for me in not just the financial sense, but to support the work overall. And that was really special, and it got me really excited about the whole process, which I'm excited to share with you all today.
All right, so we don't have a ton of time here as a whole group in the morning because where the real work is happening is in the breakout sessions, because like I said, this is something we could talk about forever, but the only way you really learn it is by experiencing it. So one last thing that we want to do as a whole group is just talk about our shared agreements. We like to set the tone with these agreements at the beginning of every session because it is very conversational and it can be triggering because money is one of those things that we all have a strong connection to. And so I think it's really helpful to take a collective breath together and just get a little bit grounded and understand that we're all here to have fun. So I just kind of want to walk us through that first. I want everyone to plant both feet on the ground. I want them to sit with their spines straight and relax their shoulder blades down their back. And breathe in to the count of 4 and then breathe out to the count of 4. We'll do that one more time. Okay, so now that we've released any of the sort of jitters around this, we're going to talk about our shared agreements. For some of you, you may not have signed up to be a fund seeker, but we will be asking our really voluntolding people to be fund seekers because it's only fun if we have enough fund seekers. So Noelle, if you could chat the shared agreements, that'd be great. Okay, so what we have is, don't take anything personally. Nothing others do is because of you. What others say and do is a projection of their own reality. Don't make any assumptions. Ask for clarity. Listen to understand, not to respond. Invite others who have not spoken to join, and allow time for others who do not speak as readily. Speak from your own experience. And then what is said here stays here. What is learned here leaves here. Share lessons learned or insights with people who weren't present while honoring confidentiality. And then if you have any other agreements that you'd like to share, we have a large group, so we're encouraging people when we're in the large session like this right now, just to type it into the chat so we can gather those and not interrupt time too much before we move into the breakout. All right, well, so now we get to go do the experience. I'm gonna hand it off to Sonia to get us all into breakouts.
Thanks, Jamie. So there's going to be a little bit of a shuffle here because I'm going to automatically sort everybody into 5 rooms, but then I'm going to manually move the co-facilitators around. So just hold on for a minute or so while people are being shuffled around, and just be sure to click accept when I move you. Enjoy, have fun.
Great. Lindsay, your audio is a little muddled, so I'm going to have you be an observer in this circle, if that's okay. And is that okay with you? Okay. David, you're next.
Hey, everybody. It's David Putnam over at Piedmont Triad Regional Council. I'm based in North Carolina, pretty close to Marcus. We've met each other a few times. It's coincidence that we're in the same room, but really excited to participate in this and looking forward to seeing ideas shared.
Awesome, thank you. And then Adama, are you hearing us and are you able to unmute? I'm gonna unmute you and see if anything happens. Adama, can you hear us, and are you willing to give us a little intro to who you are? I'm going to mute them. And then let's see. So we're going to have five people doing the fun seeking and then a couple more doing observing, depending on what happens with the Dhamma. So I just want to kind of talk about what this time is going to look like. First of all, we're going to be together for a long time. And so you can feel free to stand up and stretch or BRB, go to the bathroom, get some tea, water, coffee, whatever. This is you know, it's structured, but I like everything to be highly conversational. I think getting to know each other is one of the most important aspects of these types of experiences. So feel free to ask questions, raise your hand, let us know if you feel like you don't know where we're headed. Let's see. So we're gonna have about an hour and 20 minutes together. We're gonna get the 60-second countdown when we're done. So when that comes, we kind of just gotta wrap it up wherever we are. Hopefully we'll be done with everything. And then, yeah, so now we can move into sort of who's going to be the fun seekers and who's going to be the observers and what that entails. So the fun seekers, yep, we have 5. The ideal number is 5. And what they're going to do is they're going to come up with a quick pitch, a quick project, something that you might already be working on or something that you've been dreaming about that's related to the food system and is about building community power and equity. We have $50,000 total in this room. And so what that looks like is that the fun seekers will get to keep 2,000 of those dollars and give away 8,000 of those dollars. So they'll be, the reason we want 5 is because it's really easy math. You can do 10,000 per person. So you want your project to be right around that $10,000 mark, but it could be less or more, and or you could ask for the whole 50,000. And then, so you're gonna have some time to silently come up with that pitch. And then we're gonna do the shared gifting experience, which is sort of expressing what the pitch is, and then and then we come together and decide how the money gets distributed. So that's what the fund seekers will be doing. The observers, while the fund seekers are coming up with their pitch ideas, we'll be just having a conversation about participatory grant making. And then you will just be practicing your deep listening skills while they're doing the pitches and while they're doing the sort of gifting experience, because there's a lot of stuff happening at that time. And for the people who are fund seekers, it can be like really engaging and you're thinking from your own lens. And we really also want that perspective from the observer of like, what does it look like overall from an outside perspective? So we're really hoping for you to use your active listening skills. And then when we come back as a large group, we're going to be asking what your experience was. We'll also be asking from the fund seekers to share how they felt about it all. Let's just see, I want to make sure that I'm following my directions. All right, are there any questions about what a fund seeker does or what an observer does before we sort of select who the 5 fund seekers will be?
Jamie, I don't have a question, but I wanted to make sure that everyone saw in the chat box that we're recording and the group agreements. Did everyone see that? Is that coming up? Okay, just wanted to make sure.
Awesome. All right, so is there anyone who really just wants to be a fund seeker? You just raise your hand, that'd be awesome. We need 5, so I'm gonna be volunteering people if they don't volunteer themselves. Okay, awesome. So we have 1 volunteer.
I can only be on until around 12:30. Is that going to get in the way of me participating as a fund seeker?
Yes, it will.
Okay. Sorry, I'll be an observer then.
Well, what's 12:30 to you?
Oh, in 1 hour.
Okay, yeah. So you'll have to be an observer.
Okay, sorry.
So then it looks like it's Ellie, Marcus, and David, and then Linksy. We're gonna need you to be a fund seeker too. So we'll just try to work on your audio before the pitch. Okay, does that sound, now are there any questions now that you know who the fund seekers are and who the observers are? No, and then does anybody not have the worksheet printed or up in their Google Doc? Okay, looks like a couple people. So Sade, can you find that worksheet and get it into their chat? So what we use the worksheet for is that, so you'll come up with your pitch, you'll come back and do that, but then you have to listen to everyone else's pitch. And so you'll want to take notes and sort of start thinking about what you want to do with that $8,000 and how you want to distribute it to the others. So the worksheet is really helpful for that. In the folder that Sade will share, you can either print it as a PDF or you can use a Google Doc version to just have it up on a different screen. So we're gonna take 10 minutes. It's 10:30 right now. We'll come back at 10:40. Let's just make sure my timing's right. Yeah, we'll come back at 10:40. So for me, it's 10:40. We'll come back in 10 minutes. And so you have 10 minutes to sort of print the worksheet, get the worksheet up, and come up with a project idea that's between $10,000 and $15,000. With the whole pot being $50,000. Does that make sense? Any questions? Okay. So what you're gonna do for everyone who's a fund seeker, you're gonna turn all the audio off your computer, not just on Zoom, but your entire audio, so you don't hear us talking. And then just come back in 10 minutes. So good luck coming up with your next project. You can also turn your video off if you want. Okay, so now, Marcus, are you new to the group? Hey, Marcus, can you hear us? And can we hear you? Adama, are you there? Can you hear us and can we hear you? Oh, Marcus was here, right? Marcus was the guy who like didn't have perfect audio on his computer. Yeah, okay, so he was here. So it's just Adama who we haven't been able to hear yet. So Marguerite, you get to have a conversation with me.
Okay, sure.
So,
I just did want to say Adama, he messaged me privately saying his name is Bruce White with Catholic Relief Services Farm to Farm program based in Baltimore. So I said to him, like, you know, you sent this to me privately, like if you want to talk, you can press the mute button in the bottom left corner of your screen. He hasn't replied yet, so yeah.
So this is me. So I didn't understand. So Adama maybe Adama works with me. So maybe she linked me in here and I didn't understand everything. So
okay, it says Bruce White now.
I changed it, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, here I am.
We were so confused.
Yeah, me too. So could I be an observer? I'm based in Baltimore. I work for Catholic Relief Services, and I with our farmer to farmer program. So we actually work in 6 countries overseas. This is very interesting, and I know almost nothing about this. So there.
Well, that's what we were hoping for, is to help people learn about this. So welcome, Bruce. So it's just Bruce and Marguerite. You two are the observers here. The others have their video and audio completely turned off because they're coming up with a project pitch. And so we just wanted to engage you in a discussion. First, I just want to make sure, Sade, are you cool with the worksheet? I'm not even, am I in the work? I don't even, yeah, I'm in the worksheet. You're cool. Okay. So Marguerite and Bruce, what brought you to this experience today? Are you thinking about doing a participatory grant making experience with your organization, or can you just talk a little bit about that?
Sure, I can talk a bit about it. I actually know Shadi because we are co-funding the Community Ownership, Empowerment, and Prosperity Group, which is funded, you know, it's actually through CFN, and it's a bunch of really great people within our region who are talking about how to make funding more accessible for our food system. So we're a private operating foundation. I'm with the Oak Spring Garden Foundation, and we don't actually do grant making. So this is a little bit cerebral for me, but we do a lot of contracting with different partners, and we do a lot of other support. So we host conferences for groups. And so there's other ways that we can think about being more equitable in our work, just not through grants, mostly through contracts. So
yeah, that's what we like to say about shared gifting, is that you don't need to go and take shared gifting as the actual process and do that to work in more participatory ways.
mm-hmm.
It's about a value system of having more transparency, shifting power, working on decentralized decision making and all of that sort of stuff. So it's just like a project related to, equity theory.
Yeah, I appreciate that sentiment. So hopefully we can figure out a way to apply it here.
For sure. And Bruce, what attracted you to this webinar?
Well, Adama wanted me to become educated on this. So I wear 2 hats. Affiliated with our farmer to farmer program. So we're working with 6 countries overseas, and we're doing really broad-based agricultural development, rural development in each of these countries. They all include financing, and we work with lots of different partners. And so that's hat number 1. Hat number 2 is that my wife and I own a little farm in Southern Virginia, and we're very small scale, and we're also very interested in really looking at agriculture in general more equitably. So those are two aspects. Okay.
Great. Thank you for sharing. So for both of you, it sounds like it's more about the sort of value system of participatory grant making rather than like taking the shared gifting experience and implementing it in 3 months or something like that.
Yeah.
Oh, no. We would like to, the more I learn about it, yes, I would like to participate, and I would also like to have my organization participate and find ways of replicating this in other countries.
That's great. So are there any specific questions that you're hoping to have answered during this webinar?
I have a question. I'm kind of curious how often it's been happening and if there's actual data around the results of this sort of thing. And like, I'm just curious if it ever ends up being unequal amounts of funding, or like what the regression is for that sort of a thing. Like how often one per grantee gets all of the money versus how often is it like basically an even split? You know, I just, I'm really curious if like people end up going home with $0. So yeah, I guess just from a research
perspective. So the way that it works is that you always get to keep some money, and the creators of it get to decide how much that is. So for this experience, we want projects around $10,000. So every single person will get to keep $2,000. They get to gift $8,000. So essentially someone could walk away with only $2,000 because everyone who's gifting is like, you know, we don't really believe in that project. We want to give our money to a different project. And someone could, you know, only ask for 10,000 but could get 30,000. What really ends up happening from my experience is that it is a little bit, people usually get around what they ask for. But what's really special is that it's not just, so how we frame it is it's not really even about the money, it's about the experience. So one, you're having the experience of what it feels like to be a grant maker, and what it feels like to have to make the decision about how to fund other projects and to how to express that to other people. And so those are all skills that are that not a lot of people get the opportunity to learn. And then second, you get this other lesson on equity. So something that happened in one of the circles that we had that was very white, there was 1 or 2 Native people, is that someone said, I can't make this decision, I'm giving equally to everyone. And then the next person said, I can make this decision very easily. I believe that I want all of my however many $1,000s to go to the Native project because they deserve reparations for everything that my ancestors have put them through. And so it was that like very real experience of, oh, equality versus equity. And it had money behind it, which makes it that much more impactful.
Interesting.
And then what we like to do, because we haven't had a lot of money to work with this, is that we like to bring people together quarterly afterwards to just keep getting to know each other and building really strong social connectedness with each other, because they just funded each other's projects. So a vested interest in each other.
Yeah. So do you always recommend with these shared gifting exercises or, you know, in real life that there is this sort of a percentage of like, you know, 10% or 20% is kept?
Yep, 20 to 30% is kept.
Okay.
Yep. All right, so if you can hear me and you're muted and your video's off, you can come back and we can start the pitching process. Maybe let's chat them. Hey, Marcus.
Yeah.
Do you have the project to end all projects?
Have the project to start a few other project.
Okay.
Yeah.
Welcome back, David.
Hey, how are you?
Good. All right, so we're still waiting for Ellie, Linksay, and Jamase. How did she pronounce that? How did they? No. Welcome back. We're still waiting on Ellie and Linksay. There's Ellie. Hey.
While we're waiting, could I ask a question about why I don't have the bar along the bottom that says mute or unmute or like share a video? Like it's not there, and when I scroll over it, it doesn't show up.
I don't know.
Okay, maybe it's just I haven't updated my Zoom, but
so I'm just going to mute you, and then if you want to talk, just raise your hand. What we're asking for the observers right now is just to listen.
Yeah.
And if you have any questions, you can put it in chat.
Okay, if you could mute me, that would be great. Thanks.
Cool. All right, so let the pitch fest begin. We're going to go one at a time.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yep, we can hear you. That sounds great.
No.
So we're going to do one at a time. You have 7 minutes, and you get to decide how you want to use that 7 minutes. You can talk for the whole 7 minutes about your pitch, or you could talk for only 2 minutes and then ask for questions. That time in a real shared gifting experience is really, really helpful because it allows that cross-pollination from other people, and it really helps people strengthen their proposals. So act like this is real for you. For those of you who are fun seekers, act like it's real for them too. So think about questions that could help them improve their project and provide them resources that could help improve their project if they allow for time with that within their 7 minutes. So I will be holding up my fingers for the last 2 minutes and the last 1 minute. Hey, Linksay. And then as a facilitator, I'm going to be ruthless and just cut you off right at 7 minutes because we want everyone to only have 7 minutes. We want the exact same time for everyone. So is there a volunteer to go first? All right, Ellie wants to go first. So I am going to start. Let me get my clock pulled up. Okay, I'm going to start my clock, and you can remember just use the 7 minutes however you want. Okay, start.
Thanks, Jamie. Okay, so just for clarity's sake, this is a made-up project, but okay, so I'm Ellie from RSF Social Finance, and today my proposal for this $10,000 grant that I'm requesting is in support of sustainability of a local food hub. I'm requesting $10,000 for a partner in our field, an organization called Kitchen Table Advisors, to provide free small business advising to local food producers in the area that I live. Because many farmers know farming very well, but don't have the same experience or training in business, managing resources and networking. Kitchen Table Advisors can play a really helpful role in the sustainability and long-term production of a farm by helping farmers plan and build business skills. So I think that $10,000 could support Kitchen Table Advisors, like a pilot relationship with maybe 3 clients. So I'd see that the impact would be 3 local farmers. And yeah, I think I'll stop there on my pitch. Happy to answer questions.
So fun seekers, this is the time for you to be thinking about questions. You can just make them up. But it's important to think about questions because a lot of times what happens is the fun seekers are so focused on their pitch that they don't think about the questions.
I have a question. So in your pitch, I didn't hear anything specific related to racial equity. Do you want to elaborate more on that?
Sure, yeah. I'd hope that by providing, free consultation for producers in the field, and maybe actually I could revise my proposal to focus on, small farmers small business owners of color in the region, that we could help advance like the equity by providing skill set training to that specific population of farmers in my region. That's a good question.
Hey, this is David here. What expected goals and performances do you plan to achieve with this program within months, year, and then 2-year time frame?
Well, that's a great question, David. In the impact study that Kitchen Table Advisors did on their pilot program of 2012 to 2015, they showed that business net income increased by more than 60% in 3 years, that they had maintained 200 acres in sustainable agriculture and increased the amount of healthy food in their communities. So I'd hope for similar outcomes with this very small portion of funding going to support these local producers, that they too would see similar outcomes.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Ellie, do you have a sense of what the longer term sustainability of this kind of outreach, this kind of programming would look like after the 10,000?
That's a really good question too. I think one part of what Kitchen Table Advisors provides is networking amongst the folks, their clients, and sort of beyond, just within the food system that they serve. So I'd hope skills that are sort of provided to these individuals could be transferred just via colleagueship or maybe even organized events, and to sort of that one-on-one advising to sort of have ripple effects as they work in collaboration together in the same field, in the same area.
Thank you.
Sure.
We have 2 minutes left, so any other questions? Also, I just want to welcome Olivia. We're in the middle doing some of our pitches. So welcome. I muted you. You can be an observer for our Pitch Fest. Are there any last questions or any last comments? Otherwise, we can yield the rest of the time. All right. So anyone want to volunteer to go next? Thank you, Ellie. Marcus, do you mind if I call on you? You're unmuted. You're just like to be called on.
Okay. This is an idea that we actually have been thinking about through our county level food council for Seth Foodworks. Let me know if you have a hard time hearing me. So we're seeking capacity funds to start an urban farmers cooperative, 10,000. And the idea being, we've had a farm school that our cooperative extension has conducted for about the past 2 years. And through that program, we have about 35, just over 35 certified urban farmers. They've all come from primarily distressed neighborhoods throughout the community, throughout the county. But essentially their support and resources stop there after the 12-week program. That's a small step, and they get, and after that, access to land, access to markets are a huge issue. Thought is that as an urban farmer cooperative, they could pull resources together, purchase collectively, help each other in terms of appropriate clients, access to new markets, and just essentially forming their own kind of support system. Life after the urban farm school, essentially. So it's all based on using the assets that we have. These farmers being from distressed communities, those distressed communities already have a bit of vacant land, also poor food access. And then there's some broader policy potentials. If we start working with acre institutions on purchasing agreements that could benefit not only farmers. So that's kind of the foundation we'd like to build with this capacity funding. Any questions?
Could you talk a little bit more about the purchasing agreements that you mentioned?
Yeah, so we've been talking a little bit with like the Center for Good Food Purchasing, seeing what like for working with some of the local institutions, the city government or the school districts to get them on board with supporting local purchasing agreements and actually preparing some portion of their food purchases locally. And you know, that would be a policy that would down the road benefit both urban and rural farmers. There are a few programs like that, but the Center for Good Food Purchasing is one that we've been talking to. So. I really did a good job.
Yes, you did.
Oh, thanks.
Marcus, can you name your organization or affiliation, please?
Yeah, so this project's coming out of Forsyth Foodworks. It's a food policy council based out of Forsyth County, North Carolina.
Are you saying Foodworks?
Yeah, it's one word, Foodworks.
Foodworks, okay.
Try to be kind of clever with it.
You also could put it in the chat. Your audio is a little muddled to me.
Okay.
Marcus, can you also tell us about your connection with Extension? I heard you reference them in terms of evaluation, but could you talk more about that?
Sure. So Extension's been heavily involved in our food council. They were at the table when the council was created. And before that, when we were doing our regional food system assessment. Right now, we kind of have a collaborative working relationship in terms of helping them promote organization or programming that they're doing. They kind of connecting us with horticultural resources, with community members that we're connected with. So it's kind of like a nice symbiotic relationship. They also have a really rather large focus on kind of urban agriculture and community gardens, which is fairly rare in cooperative extension offices around the state, and kind of a growing commitment to equity, racial equity. So yeah, they've been kind of interesting to work.
That's great to hear. If someone hasn't asked a question already, I encourage you to do so. We have 1 minute left.
Hey Marcus, this is Ellie. I have a question. I couldn't quite hear in the audio intro, but I think what I heard was that these people would be coming out of a program together and then starting an urban farmers cooperative. They've already like worked together in some way and then to start their own farmers cooperative. Is that correct?
They've worked together in the sense that they've gone through this urban farm school program, which is like a 12-week horticultural / entrepreneurial program. And so this would be kind of the infrastructure behind that.
Yeah.
And, you know, we do interest meetings to see who's actually interested in this concept and who would, you know, want to be at the table to actually help build it out. But these funds would be, you know, just to give us the capacity and space to have those conversations and do that.
I got you. That makes sense. Do you have a sense of how many people you think might, like, what's the pool you'd pull from? How many people?
Right now, we're right around 35, maybe slightly more graduates within county. So most of them don't have a whole lot going on in terms of urban ag, and I imagine the majority would be interested in at least coming on board, maybe not in the startup and planning phase, but at least coming on board, you know, once it's created.
Great, thank you.
All right, thank you, Marcus. Just to remind all the fund seekers, you should be thinking about, everyone gets to keep $2,000, but you should be thinking about how you want to distribute the $8,000 based off the pitches that you're hearing. Jamese, do you mind going next?
Sure. Hey, everybody. Again, I'm Jamese Quelle, and I'm at EcoTrust in Portland. So when I was thinking about my idea, I had a couple principles in mind. One is that I'm really interested in systemic change. And the other thing is that I'm interested in shifting power to Black and Indigenous communities. So this is us, from my perspective, a smaller pot of money. And so I wanted to start small with a request for a total of $15,000 for a convening, and I'll tell you how we're gonna break that out. So about $2,500 to $5,000 would be for a convening around land justice in the Pacific Northwest. And this convening would be led by and centered on First Nation and Black communities. And so just to give you a little background on the context here in the Pacific Northwest, which is similar to the context all around the country, but has a particular history around colonization, land theft, genocide, exclusion of Black people. There are actually laws in Oregon that excluded Black people from even moving and being present in Oregon. And then divestment from Black communities. So of course, as we've seen around the country, redlining and you know, forcing people into certain communities and then totally divesting from those communities. So kind of like with all of that in mind, I want to bring together organizers, leaders, growers, community builders from Black and First Nation communities in the Pacific Northwest. I want to provide childcare, food, compensation for lost wages, and bring people together to talk about how we can organize around reclaiming land in the Pacific Northwest, and also talk about how we can get in right relationship with one another and with the land, and exploring Indigenous frameworks around relationship to land. Really talking about how we can heal ourselves and heal the land as well, and how Native and Black communities can work in solidarity with one another. So that would be the foundation. And then the latter part of the meeting, we would start to talk about next steps. So how we can advance policy change to support returning land to community control, how we can raise funds to sustain our efforts, and kind of not thinking about like asking people for money, but really demanding. I don't want to use the word reparations because I think reparations are a very specific thing, but really holding institutions accountable to reallocating resources that belong to us and that have ultimately, if you look at the history, been stolen from our communities. And then the final part of the meeting would be a shared giving circle. Is that what these are called? Shared gifting circle, where the Black and Native leaders would decide how to allocate the remaining $10,000 to $12,500 to figure out, you know, next steps, or if there's a small sort of pilot project that people want to work on. So again, 2,500 to 5,000 for the convening, and then the remaining 10,000 to 12,500 will go out to the groups and the individuals that are there. And that would be decided at that convening. So folks would, you know, would make those decisions about how to allocate those resources collectively. Any questions?
Hey, Janice, this is Ellie.
Yes. Oh.
No, go ahead.
You.
No, it's okay, Bruce. After you.
Okay, thanks. So this is very interesting, and the whole idea of really looking at land resources, I think, is very intriguing, and so it sounds like you're not really talking about real estate, zoning, and banks and that sort of thing. Are you looking at a different mechanism for transferring land, like out of government to certain community recipients, or what are some of the kind of the practical mechanisms that you're looking at in terms of this access to?
Okay, so everything is on the table. So absolutely transferring land that is held by the government, which we're currently seeing happening in Seattle and Portland, or the potential of happening. But it could be white landowners saying, you know what, them coming to understand how they acquired that land. And, you know, you have organizations like Resource Generation, where people who have benefited from generational wealth are coming into knowledge about how, you know, they came into possession of that wealth, and they want to turn it over to Black and Native communities. So it can happen in any number of ways, and everything is on the table.
We have time for one more short question, if there's anything.
If no one else, oh, Marcus, go ahead. I'll let you.
But no, because you were up with Bruce. You should go.
Okay,
Super.
so time is up.
Oh no.
And this is the ruthless part. That's always hard, because I'm sure there was a lot that people wanted to know about that. Okay, so we are gonna go Linksy and then David. So thanks, Jamise. And then Linksy, are you prepared to go next? Can we hear you, Linksy?
No. Yeah, can you?
That word, yeah.
No.
Yes. You ready? Linksy, we could hear you.
Okay, great. Great.
Okay.
Okay, first I must confess, I know quite a little about food systems. Okay, but I will try to do something that is related to this. So in Singapore, we have this organization that I want to represent today. Let me just drop you the link. It's called Ground-Up Initiative. So what they do is they are an urban farm. As some of you may know, so a lot of us don't really know, you know, like food systems so much about like how food is produced, and it's a relatively wealthy country. So a lot of people are not really appreciative of, you know, how we get what we get, and all these things. So this organization started a few years ago. What they do, they have this piece of land in the middle of Singapore, and they actually have like an organic farm, and let people go into experience what it's like to have soil and to actually farm in a city like Singapore. Yeah, so they do this kind of like experiential activities. They let people like work with food and like farming and things like that, volunteering and experiencing. And they also provide employment opportunities for disadvantaged communities like persons with disabilities, because it's like a safe haven, right? So people actually get to work here under kind of like a sheltered place that is outside I mean, separate from the outside. Yeah, so I'm requesting for 17,000. Opportunities where we get people like normal citizens to come in and work with our farmers and experience what it's like to appreciate the whole process and the effort that it takes to grow and not to see food as just surplus in stores. Yeah, and also just to add on, actually this organization, they've been around for 3-4 years, but just last year, unfortunately, the founder passed away. So when the founder passed away, there was issues with the funding. The government is looking to take back the land, and so the organization may not be able to survive past the next 2 years. So we're really hoping to ramp up the programs with your support. Continue to keep this piece of land that really means a lot to a lot of sustainability experts in Singapore, as well as the communities that we serve. Yeah, thank you. Any questions?
Lindsay, just to clarify a bit, the funds would go towards some programming for citizens to work with farmers, as well as toward potentially buying back this land?
Yeah, so the money will actually go to our current programs, so we can host more people coming to our farm to actually interact with our farmers. We can bring them on tours, we can let them experience and the hard work that goes behind it so that they are more appreciative. So yes, it goes into the programs, which then indirectly supports us to sustain as an organization. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Can you tell us a little bit about what urban agriculture is like in Singapore? Because it's a hot thing in a lot of cities in the United States, but I'd love to hear about the sort of the culture of Singapore around urban agriculture.
Yeah, so it's actually really niche. So because Singapore is a city state, so it's really, really small. Land is super scarce. Places that you can get land. And so I can only think of like 2 urban farms in Singapore, and these are both like really secluded and people prices rather than commercial kind of enterprises. And it's usually, it's not big, but it's decent enough to produce enough food that they can supply to some sustainable F&B outlets that use these ingredients. And there are some like residents who can also order this kind of food. So it's its own kind of chain, but it's also small, and it's mostly for people to really experience it, because it's not something that you see every day here.
Thank you. If you haven't asked a question in a while, I hope that you will. This is a part of the process of being able to think about questions for people as well.
Lindsay, how many people do you think might be interested in participating in a program like this?
Yeah, actually, so far the participation has been good. I think generally they have volunteering programs on an almost daily basis, and each day they get like maybe 10 to 20 people, which is quite a fair bit for Singapore's population. There are issues kind of sustaining it financially.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I have a question. So from my limited understanding of urban agriculture, certainly in the United States, most of them are involving nonprofit organizations. And it'd be interesting to hear from Singapore. Are these urban agriculturalists, are they making a profit, or they're trying to, or is that the goal?
Thank you. Generally, for the two that we have, the two main urban farms, they are social enterprises. We don't really have nonprofits here. For us, our nonprofits are very social based, which is actually my field of work. So in terms of these urban farms, they're mostly social enterprises, and usually they will find a way to sustain themselves financially. Yeah.
That's 7 minutes.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Lindsay. Next, we're gonna round off our group of 5 with David.
All right, sorry, it took me a while to find my unmute, but here I am. So, start off, this project is entirely made up out of thin air. It would be in support of an active project, if this was such an active project, and it would be a capacity funding initiative. So in reality, $8,000 would be for operations, of course, $2,000 for the administrative tasks, and then the $10,000 in total. And the pitch would be, I'm seeking a total of $10,000 to implement food advocacy programs to be interwoven into recreation and park and library department programming activities at the county level. This would include the endorsement of recreation and park departments for the creative capacity expansion of food-related programming needs per communities involved, as well as the library departments at the county level and their branches. This funding would be a 30% match to a current programming initiative at the county level, which is over the course of 3 years. And it would be co-funding operation endeavors. So I've got 4 key bullet points for this program that the funding would help assist. The first would be providing materials for municipalities to implement food advocacy programming needs at community centers, recreation centers, outdoor centers, and even library branches. The next would be provide capacity building training regimens to staff at partnership municipalities at the county level. So of course you have your townships, your chartered towns, et cetera, et cetera. The money would be sent to the county, sort of like a CDBG, Community Development Block Grant, and then disseminated throughout participating communities. Then the next bullet would be to conduct community input strategies, to identify needs within participating communities. And finally, the funding would help achieve a compiling and record of attainable data during the program's implementation period. So after this program is implemented appropriately, it will represent an ideal and model exercise for statewide motivational efforts and inclusionary efforts for a healthy opportunities network that addresses an element of the social determinants for health. And so having that regional impact while staying local is really important. I've seen a lot of philanthropic organizations trying to access that. Some performance measures and expected goals. So within the year 1, we would like to have at least two municipalities engaged in this program, and then another 2 after the 3-year implementation period is up. Engage community members. Programming and attendance data should be increased by 10% every quarter within the first year. During the 2-year period and beyond, programming increases by 20% per year. And then we would like to train 3 staff members per municipality, minimum from 1 of each library branch within the first 6 months of each participating community, and then reinitiate training activities annually. So I'll leave it at that. I know I'm at 3 minutes now, and does anybody have any questions?
David, could you say more about food advocacy? Like what it would encompass that in these trainings or in this programming?
Yeah. So what would be really ideal with this programming? I had that the funding would help support to conduct community input strategies to identify needs within participating communities. That advocacy would be tailored to complement whatever results were revealed at the local level, right? Because the county has their own vision of what reality is, but then our boots on the ground people, bureaucrats, and community activists and champions are going to have a totally different reality. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
Does anybody have any other questions?
David, can you name your
Oh, we can't hear you. Oh, there we go. We could start again.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay. David, can you name the organization or affiliation that your that the project was associated with?
David, what's your org?
Yeah, my organization is the Piedmont Triad Regional Council, and we're based in North Carolina, and we cover a 12-county region. And so, but really this type of program, I would envision this being implemented at a county level. So within any of our 12 participating counties, I could see something like this being kicked off specifically in a county like Forsyth or Davie, and especially in counties like Stokes, Surrey, and Caswell, which are more of the rural context. They've got a lot of townships, maybe not a lot of charter communities, still very reliant on county resources, and don't really have the local infrastructure set up yet.
We have time for one last question if there's anything. All right, we will yield the last 44 seconds. And let's give ourselves a round of applause. We made it through the pitches. That can be harder. You guys made it look effortless, but it can be harder than it looks. Okay, so now we get to take a little bit of a break for the people who are fund seekers to decide how you want to distribute the $8,000. So remember, you keep $2,000, you give $8,000. You can't give yourself any money. All the funding needs to go to other organizations. And then what we ask when you come back is that you will explain how you are gifting your money. It doesn't have to be a long explanation. It can be one sentence. For instance, Marcus, I'm giving you $2,000 because I believe in like local gardens or something like that. You know, it can be as simple as you want or as complex as you want. Yeah, $8,000. So we'll give you just a couple minutes to sort of figure out how you want to allocate your $8,000, and then we'll come back at, let's say, so for me it's 11:20, and so let's come back at 11:25 or in 5 minutes. And again, you can sort of mute your audio on everything, not just Zoom, but on your computer, and we're going to have a little conversation with the observers. All right, so Marguerite and Bruce, what did you notice?
I think I got it. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Bruce.
No, I want to hear Marguerite first. You are open first.
Yeah, okay.
Sure.
Okay.
I just was going to say I had to step out for most of those proposals. I don't know if you saw me, but I got pulled into a call. But what I did hear was it's a little bit hard, it seems, when it's these sort of made up programs. But yeah, I think that they all seemed to have sort of blanket, not very passionate pitches. Yeah.
Yeah, the pitching process can be hard in general. Like that, I have definitely heard more passionate pitches, but I've also heard a lot less passionate pitches.
Okay.
And the sort of lagging question asking, that can be really normal too, because people get really nervous about their pitches. And so you really have to encourage people to ask questions. How about you, Bruce?
Well, it was interesting. Yeah, some were kind of vague. Some were, I don't know. I mean, maybe this is too harsh, but some were a little, had a little bit of jargon associated with them. And then some were more specific and kind of practical. So it was interesting. It was interesting to see where kind of people are coming from and what they're thinking. It's also interesting that the pitchers are, it seems like are really coming from the nonprofit sector. And so that can kind of maybe kind of color their pitches or their approaches to the types of projects that they're thinking about. Anyway, those are just some random thoughts.
Yeah. Did you notice any sort of areas of tension or challenge?
Actually, I noticed, you know, when it was an organization on organization question, that there was a little bit of challenge. Like when one of the people said, you know, how are you mentioning racial equity in any of your proposal? And they were like, yeah, we can do that. Like, let's change our entire proposal to be like that. And I would expect more of that. I would expect organizations to kind of pontificate, especially with like a funder in the room and with funding there. I would expect for there to be challenges to people's theories of change or demographics or ways of working. I think there was less than I would have expected, just probably because it's a simulation.
For sure. And then you also create the parameters around what the process is about. So the one that we're doing currently in extension is for Black, Indigenous, people of color, work focused on equity-based food systems work. So then kind of creating that container already. You know, another container we've had is my role as extension educator. Extension educators working in the state of Minnesota on a food systems project, you know, or like you can sort of create the container that creates the commonality. Any other observations that stuck out to you? Can you see this happening, Bruce, with your work? Could you see people doing a pitching process like that?
That's a very good question. So yes, but you know, we are very business oriented, and so I could see this. So I would maybe kind of shift the emphasis to be, you know, much more business oriented for, like, for instance, cooperatives, working cooperatives that make money, and so that might, you know, be around, you know, buying machinery or something like that. Let's say a processing machinery or marketing or cold storage or something like that. I could see it being very practical. For sure. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, as a matter of fact, maybe we could get you overseas, and I just wrote down your name.
Yeah, fund me to come overseas and I will, I'll do that for you.
Okay, we're working, yeah, okay. We're working in Ethiopia, Uganda, Rwanda, Benin,
I worked
Nepal, and East Timor.
I worked in Uganda in my early 20s for a year. So if you bring me back to Kampala, I would, I'd be super grateful.
We could arrange that.
All right, so everyone who are the fund seekers, you can come back now if you can still hear me. All right, welcome back. Hi. All right, so we're gonna go in the same order that we went through with the pitches, and because you are all interested not in getting actual funding right now, but you're interested in the process of shared gifting, I'm going to also give you a behind the scenes look by sharing my screen on this crazy worksheet that we have to use to get this figured out virtually. In person, it's much easier because you can use a whiteboard or a chalkboard and sort of just erase things and write things up, but this is what it looks like virtually. We do like doing it virtually because then we can engage people, you know, across the state, nation, and globe. All right, so let's see. Ellie, you asked for $10,000. You have $2,000 to keep, and how do you want to distribute your $8,000?
Great. I would like to gift $3,000 to Marcus's initiative. I'm excited to support cooperative ownership structures and appreciated the space for community determination in your proposal after sort of bringing these 35 graduates together to see what best fit their needs at the time. I would like to grant $2,000 to Jamise for the convening around land justice. I'm also excited by the part of your proposal, described in the second part, the funding what just sort of like came up organically at this convening. I'm excited to use part of these funds and the shared gifting circle to support the community determination present in your proposal as well. Linksy, I'd like to provide $1,000 for her project because access and education are really important for systems change. It sounded like Singapore citizens could benefit from more access and exposure to urban agriculture in their communities. And to David, I'd like to grant $2,000 for his food advocacy programming. Again, I guess the theme of my grants are community determination. I appreciated that as a part of his proposal that community input would be sought to shape the food advocacy programming specific to each regional government or library branch.
Great, thank you. And then Sade, you can fill in the rest of it. I just wanted to make sure you are in here, okay? So Marcus, you asked for $10,000. You get to keep 2 and you get to give 8. How do you want to give it out? Marcus? Can you hear me, Marcus?
Yeah,
there we go. Yeah, hey.
I have 4 going to Ellie, sorry. Just because that's the space in terms of being able to work with farmers that we've identified to kind of help with those basic business and advertising, marketing, and networking skills. I'd be curious to see how that develops. I have 4 going to Jamise, though I still had, and so this is kind of a question I have about the overall process, because once you start thinking about allocation, then other questions pop up.
Yep.
And so I wanted to ask, you know, are funds for speakers factored into the kind of roughly 15,000 that you broke out for? Because I didn't hear that included in the original breakdown.
Am I allowed to answer?
Yeah, we don't traditionally do that, but sometimes if we have extra time for extra questions and answers. So go ahead for this, yeah.
Okay, yeah, so travel funds for all participants would be covered, as well as for specific speakers, they would receive stipends.
Okay. Okay. Well, I have 4 for you, and then for Lindsay, I kind of want more information.
You're at $8,000.
Okay.
And
so
because we're sort of running out of time, and I want you to be able to see this whole process, I'm just gonna you're at $8,000. You don't need to give everyone money. And then we're gonna go to Jamise, and you don't have to give explanations of why you're giving funding. Just give us the amount so we can get through this part.
Okay, great. I gave $5,000 to Marcus. I felt that his, I felt the ownership of people who are directly impacted the most, and I just felt that was really important to mention. And then $1,000 for Lindsay, Ellie, and David each.
Okay. And then Lindsay, Sade, I'll do Lindsay's.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, so I went with 2.5 for the first two and 1.5 for
sorry.
the
I couldn't hear that. Say that again.
2005, 2,500 for the first two.
Two.
I'll type.
Sade, if you caught that, you can write it in there. Lindsay, can you put it in the chat? Because you're kind of clicking out.
Yeah, I just.
Did you do that?
Can you see?
I'll let Sade.
I can see. So Lindsay, are you saying for the first two presenters?
Yes.
The first two presenters and the second two. Okay, got it.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, David, what are your amounts?
I think I'll do 3,000 to Japanese. Again, that land trust stuff is really cool. Sorry, I'm supposed to just blow through this. 2,000 for Marcus, Ellie 1,000, and then Lingxi 1,000 as well.
Great. Let's just do this, Sade. Oh. And then David's only at, I'm going to bump up Lingxi's to 2,000. Usually we'd clarify this with you, but because we don't have a ton of time, I'm just sort of making sure that column H equals $8,000 for everyone. And then, what the final totals are is that Ellie asked for 10,000. She received 10,500. Marcus asked for 10,000. He received 14,500. Jamise asked for 15,000. She received 12,500. Lingxi asked for 17,000. She received 6,000. David asked for 10,000 and he received 6,500. So now we're going to take 1 minute for all of the fund seekers to think about how much they have currently and if they'd like to re-gift any of the funding that they have. They are not obligated to, but they can if they want to. Okay. Sade, do you want to write the names in of people so I can facilitate? You write the names in, I'll do the amounts. Ellie, would you like to re-gift any of your funding?
Yeah, since I received more than I asked for, I would like to give 500 to Jamise to get her closer to the amount that she had requested for her project.
All right. David, or sorry, Marcus. Do you want to re-gift anything?
Yeah, I'll regift, let's see, we're at 14.5. I'll regift 2,500 to Lindsay and 2,000 to David.
2,000 to who?
David?
Nope, not 200. 2,000. All right, Jamise.
Sorry. I am going to, in the spirit of abundance, I am going to regift. I want to get everybody up to a more equal amount. So Lindsay, I'm sorry. I feel like I'm butchering your name. I'm sorry. Lindsay, I'm going to give 500, and David, I'm going to give 500.
All right, Lindsay.
Hi. Hello.
Did you want to reallocate any of your funding?
No, I think I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you. And then David?
I am good to go.
All right. So Ellie asked for 10 grand, she got 10 grand. Marcus asked for 10 grand, he got 10 grand. Jamise asked for 15 grand, she got 12,000. Lingxi asked for 17,000, she got 9,000. David asked for 10,000 and he got 9,000. All right. So that, my friends, is the end of a shared gifting circle. So then we would just go around and sort of talk about how we feel. You know, when this is real money, there are a lot more emotions attached to it. Even now, there's probably emotions attached to it. A lot of learning happens in a rapid amount of time. And so this is a good time to just sort of reflect. We have 3 minutes left in this group. And so I wanted to create space for any questions you have or any reflections you have. And I prefer because we've gotten to talk a lot with each other. So if the fun seekers have anything to say, that would be a priority right now. We might be having, if you can hear my beep going, we might be getting 5 more minutes here because there's a circle that's a little behind. So Bruce, it looked like you had something you wanted to say, you want to share with us?
Well, it's just my ignorance. So you are essentially giving $8,000 each, and then those people were receiving those different amounts. So some came out even, some got more money than they gave. Is that how it works?
Yep, it works any number of ways. For this one, there was a sense of equality. I could tell that people wanted the others to get more towards their ask, but that's not always the case. Especially, I think, with real funding, there's more a sense of like, of that sort of equity appeal. Like, you know, you're doing work that is very grounded in racial equity. You're not doing work that's grounded in racial equity. So I'm not going to give any money to the work that's not grounded in it. Or this is about the food system, and it sounds like you're talking about social work. I'm not going to give any funding to that project because this is supposed to be about the food system or something like that. Does that make sense? So there could theoretically be someone that only goes home with $2,000 from this process. Marguerite?
Yeah, can you unmute me? I don't know. Can you?
You're good.
Oh, okay, cool. I was wondering how it works, you know, because some people had specific interests in certain grantees' works, but not everyone is necessarily going to be able to fund all of their project if they received less than that they wanted. And so is there like a time for changing the scope of these projects if they don't receive the amount that they needed in order to do certain metrics? You know, I mean, I guess that's what happens after the regifting.
Yeah. So what this is really about, I'm really hoping we don't get booted off here because there's another group that hasn't even gotten to round 2 yet. Is that what we like to say is that we're funding the people, not the projects. What we're funding is getting people interconnected because we believe all of our work is founded on network theory, which is the triangle with connectivity on the base, then alignment and collect. All right, welcome back, everyone. If you can still hear me, let's all come back together because we were able to wrap up that group 1 minute early, on my clock at least. All right, if you have video, let's turn your video on so we can see your beautiful faces, but we'll stay Muted for now. If everyone unmuted, it would be chaos with background noise. So we're going to have a little space here for a large group conversation for the next 10 minutes. And what we're interested in is first hearing from the observers. Just what did you observe? What did you see? What sticks out to you? And then I want the fun seekers to just take a deep breath, pat themselves on the back for going through an amazing process, coming up with a pitch in 10 minutes and deciding how to fund things. And then we're going to ask you, how did this feel for you? So we'll give a couple minutes to the observers so you can unmute yourself to speak and just answer the question. So what did you observe?
Well, this is Carolyn, and here I'll start my video. Sorry. I was an observer, and I'm a grant maker also, so just full disclosure. I've never participated in a full participatory sort of grant making process like this. I've done other kinds of grant making panels where decisions are made by the people around the table, but not by the practitioners. So this was a very interesting process to observe because everyone in the room was somebody who is actually on the ground doing the work, and they know what's needed. They can explain any kind of questions or questions that you have for about the projects, and I thought that was very useful. It was very democratic. Everyone was very nice and was very civilized. Everyone is sort of rooting for everyone else. I thought that was kind of an interesting sort of communal experience. And I feel like there's a bit that even traditional grant makers could learn from just observing and participating and maybe even supporting these kinds of processes that could be brought back to more traditional grant making. Anyway, those are some of my initial observations.
Let's hear from one more observer. Thank you, Carolyn.
Hi, this is Adama. So it was good to see the full process. I appreciated in our session where one of the organizations had an approach and another organization stepped in and chimed in and said, well, did you think about this approach, which might get you further along with what it is you're really, trying to target? And there was conversation around that. I'm looking at the questions that you asked us to address. And so I thought that there was a little bit of attention, not a lot, but a little bit of attention right after a person ended their presentation. And with other folks kind of wanting to ask questions of the organization, but not wanting to seem, as if they were picking on the organization. So, framing questions that were pertinent, but not, attacking or belittling or trying to, put them in a light that was unfavorable. Let's see. And the other tension, which is just a normal tension, right? So some groups had more money than they maybe they asked for, some groups didn't. And so I feel like you want to call it group justice or whatever. I felt some folks looking at their grant going, and that tension of I could use all this money, but I like their idea too, or hey, we're all doing this work. And so that internal tension of, do I want to share? Maybe so, maybe not, but how much do I share? So that was pretty good. I have a question, and I'll just put it out there. So does this happen with some groups that are already kind of pre-vetted? And when I say pre-vetted, I'm talking about, have they already have like their 501c3, they already have certain things in order, I'll put it like that, as far as organizational capacity. Is that like already a thing before they're even in it.
Yep. So you would create the container for whatever type of work you're trying to do. I just posted a hyperlink in the chat box for a session that we're currently doing with people, Black, Indigenous, and people of color working on equity-based work in the food system. And so you sort of, you create that container in your, so you can see our bullet points that sort of helped create our container. But one of those, if you have restrictions at your organization, could be, you know, like must be a 501c3. For us, it was well-resourced organizations need not apply, and we created a sort of decision tree on what we meant by well-resourced organizations. And so if you are planning on doing something like this, I do suggest that you reach out to, you know, RSF Social Finance or to us at Extension, people who have done it before, to sort of help you think through that container. Because for instance, for us in Extension, it took us a year to do that. We spent a year creating an experience for $15,000 or $50,000 because we like our creation and design to be really participatory too. All right, so any observations from fund seekers? How did you feel going through this process?
This is Asaya. It was nerve-wracking. It was very scary. I don't want to ask for money, and I don't want to ask for money when 1,000 people are looking at me. But I think once you got over the initial nervousness, it was speaking to your passion, speaking to your work, humanizing an issue, and being able to translate what it is you hope to accomplish. Like in your head, it might be one thing, but coming out of your mouth, it's gibberish or it's great. So it was challenging to have an elevator speech. I didn't expect to be a participant. I thought I was going to observe, so that was even more challenging. But I think it was really good because what I presented is not a fake scenario. It was a real life thing that I'm considering. And to have that feedback informally was a good thing. So, thank you.
I will just echo what Asaya said. I thought it was a very sort of humanizing way in terms of having that face and also that opportunity for feedback, which I think oftentimes on both sides of a grant making table can be really challenging to provide because you don't have context, you don't have human connection, you're not having a way to provide more informal feedback. It tends to be in a very written, you know, that feels very final or very official when maybe you want to make a suggestion and, oh, we considered that, but actually that's not going to work in my community and here's why. I thought was a really neat opportunity.
I also feel like I really enjoyed this, and I almost feel like this could happen like way ahead of the actual pitch to a group, and because it could be really helpful to just like bounce ideas off of people that you don't really know very well. There are definitely times when I'm like, oh, you should talk to this person because you guys are sort of thinking of something really cool and I'd love to help you with this. And I don't know, so I feel like there's, you know, doing this format in other settings could also be really valuable.
Yeah, so that kind of points to why we do this. Stephanie Heim, Noel Harden, and I, our work is really focused on networks. And do you mind pulling up the triangle and putting it in the chat? And we use the theory from Curtis Ogden that's adapted from a book called Connecting to Change the World, where at the bottom of the triangle is connections, or connectivity, then it's alignment, and then it's action. We really believe that you can only move at the speed of trust. So you have to build these trusting relationships, and we see shared gifting as an opportunity to do that. So shared gifting to us isn't a program that is the end-all be-all. It's a values system for us that goes hand in hand with network theory. So it's about democratization democratization, it's about shared decision making, it's about transparency, it's about trust and connectivity. You can use it and adapt it to whatever you're doing, is if it's organizational development, if it's grant making, if it's coalition building, any of that stuff. The theories and philosophy behind it can all be used and adapted. All right, we have time for one last comment, if there's anything, and then we're going to hand it off to CFN to close out our amazing webinar and experience together.
I do have a comment, and it's sort of on the other side. Like, I completely appreciated this, obviously, and I do have some concerns, and like sort of I wonder what it's like, because typically fund seekers who are selected by an organization have been hired to be fund seekers and do have targets that they need to meet. And I sort of wonder if this process serves people who have that more aggressive, I would say, approach to having to seek funds for their organizations and bring it back. Like when your boss sends you over, you need to be able to come back with what you were hoping to come back with. And so I'm just kind of wondering, if like it also can be helpful for people whose job or the nature of their organization makes it so that they have to be a little bit more aggressive than what this process may ask for. So yeah, I'm just kind of, those are my thoughts.
Yeah, and like we said, is you can adapt it to whatever meets your needs, and hopefully as you adapt it, you can sort of chip away at those needs over time, and so your organization can run more democratized and not have as stringent of needs for the people that they're funding. The way that we prefer to do it, Steph and Noel, please chime in, is to invest in the people, not the projects. And to invest in their social connectedness with each other. And that's really our end goal, not the end goal of their projects. And so we actually learned from RSF Social Finance that we don't ask for reporting. We continue to have really strong trusting relationships with them, and we're by their side helping support them with whatever they do. And so we see that the work is getting done, and it might not be the work that they actually pitched. It might be something altogether different, but we know that they're grounded in the values that we held for that process. Yeah. All right. So sorry, we ran over a little bit, but CFN, I'm going to hand it back to Sade to close us out.
Thank you, Jamie. I'm going to share my screen again with everyone. Okay, so thank you again. Big shout out to the University of Minnesota Extension team. We're so grateful for you all for this great facilitation around shared gifting. You've given us true transformative information and a transformative experience. We really encourage everyone to continue to dig deeper into participatory grant making. And thank you all for fund seekers and observers who participated today. So the CFN is using this simulation as a stepping stone into true shared gifting. So as I mentioned earlier, part 3 of the participatory grant making journey is a true shared gifting event. It's tentatively going to take place this fall, and the event will be another powerful experience for community organizations and funders alike. Like the simulation today, this event will be a mechanism to shift power, include community and decision making, increase collaboration, solidarity, and accountability through philanthropic gifting. CFM will be fundraising for this true shared gifting event. Our goal is to raise a minimum of $50,000. New England Grassroots Environmental Fund has generously given the CFN our first $5,000, and we're looking for partners to match. If you're interested in funding a dynamic event for communities within the Chesapeake region, you can contact myself at, thank you. You can contact myself, Sade Anderson, at sade@chesapeakefoodshed.net. Additionally, if your community organization is interested in gifting and receiving funds, we also encourage you to contact us to participate. Seats will be limited, so please contact us today. And we know there was a lot of information shared today and covered today. The University of Minnesota Extension, the Chesapeake Food Shed Network, as well as New England Grassroots Environmental Fund are interested in continuing these conversations around participatory grant making. We hope to offer another video call in maybe 6 months' time to discuss additional resources, ask questions, go over lessons learned around shared gifting. So please reach out by email. Thank you so much to everyone for your engagement today. We're posting a link to a short survey in the chat box. Please take a few minutes to fill it out. We really rely on feedback to improve our programming and inform the content of our programming. Again, you can email me if you have any questions. We'll be sending out a recording of this video call as well as recommended resources and slides from our experts. And thank you for your interest in joining us today. Thank you again, UMN. We can't thank you enough for your experience and expertise in shared gifting. We appreciate you. We appreciate you all for coming this afternoon, and have a great rest of the day.